The screaming started when I wasn't home. There was screaming coming from your house. Those 7 words shattered my world as I stood on my driveway, suitcase still warm from the airport shuttle. My neighbor Leo delivered this news with the careful distance of someone approaching a wounded animal. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. The house behind me, my sanctuary, my hard-earned slice of peace, stood silent now, betraying nothing of what had apparently happened inside. "That's not possible," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "I've been out of town for 2 weeks." But Leo just looked at me with that mix of concern and suspicion that makes your stomach drop like an elevator with cut cables. "I'm not paranoid, I'm cautious. There's a difference. My house is locked down like Fort Knox. Deadbolt, double cylinder, keypad lock, the works. Not because I'm expecting disaster, but because I've spent my life learning that boundaries exist to be crossed, especially by the people who claim to love you most. I'm a consultant, one of those people with the vaguely impressive job title and the perpetually packed suitcase. I spend half my life fixing other people's problems and the other half coming home to an empty house where the only greeting is week-old leftovers and unopened bills stuck to the fridge with a magnet that says live, laugh, love in fake cursive. Someone's idea of a housewarming gift, not mine. I'd just returned from Denver, 14 days of back-to-back meetings where I smiled until my face hurt and nodded until my neck ached. All I wanted was a shower hot enough to scald away the memory of airport sandwiches and hotel rooms with suspicious stains. Instead, I got a mystery that would unravel every thread of trust I'd ever placed in my family. Leo shifted his weight, the concrete driveway suddenly seeming too small for this conversation. "Look," he said, lowering his voice even though we were alone, there were people coming and going. Different ones. And the screaming. He paused, searching for words. It wasn't normal. Wasn't fun. It was like someone in pain. The chill that ran through me had nothing to do with the autumn breeze. "When exactly?" I asked, keys digging into my palm. "A few nights ago. Around midnight. And before that too." His eyes drifted toward my house, then back to me. "Not the first time either. Happened back in March, then again in June. I remember because it was the night before my daughter's dance recital." I nodded mechanically, already mentally flipping through my calendar. March 10th, Atlanta. June 2nd, Denver. Each time, hundreds of miles away. "Thanks," I managed, before retreating inside and triple locking the door behind me. That's when I started noticing things. The mirror in the hallway, cleaner than I remembered. The hardwood floor gleaming like someone had polished it on hands and knees. And upstairs, my bed wasn't just made, it was hotel-made. Military corners, pillows arranged with geometric precision, blanket turned down at an angle that screamed Pinterest perfection. My house had been occupied. Just not by me. I called my mother with shaking fingers. "Hi, sweetheart." Her voice was chirping, unnaturally bright. "How was your trip?" "Fine," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "Quick question, were you at my place?" There was the slightest pause, barely perceptible if you weren't listening for it. "Oh, I stopped by, watered the plants." You really should have left better instructions for the orchids, by the way. I had to improvise. My throat tightened. "And did you make my bed?" She laughed, that particular laugh mother's perfect, the one that makes you feel ridiculous for asking a perfectly reasonable question. "Well, somebody had to. You left it a mess." I closed my eyes, counted to 3. "Mom, I told you before." "Oh, come on." I didn't touch anything else. Just the bed, and I ran the vacuum and wiped down the counters and reorganized the spice drawer. You had 3 containers of paprika, Paige. You didn't bring anyone, right? The question felt like swallowing glass. Of course not. Why would I bring anyone? Don't be ridiculous. The lie hung between us, familiar in its shape and weight. I didn't argue, not because I believed her, but because 2 decades of experience had taught me that confronting my mother's lies was like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. Slippery, messy, and ultimately pointless. To understand how deeply this betrayal cut, you need to understand my family. My parents were hippies, not the Instagram-friendly kind with homemade granola and designer yoga mats. I mean actual free love, commune-living hippies with drug experiences they still reference like war veterans. My mother wore batik shawls and talked about energy shifts until she got pregnant with me and reluctantly traded it all for a shipping office job and a 2-bedroom in the suburbs. They never quite forgave me for that. For being the reason they had to get responsible. Growing up, remnants of their former life were everywhere. Tantra books wedged between unpaid bills, incense holders next to tax folders, dream catchers hanging above the guest room bed no one was allowed to use. And of course, there was the philosophy. My parents believed in sharing. Sounds beautiful, right? Except in practice, sharing meant one thing: what's mine is yours, and what's yours is also yours. I was born first, 2 years before my sister, so naturally I got the bigger bedroom. That was my first mistake, because once my sister decided she wanted my room too, my parents saw only one solution. You're not even using all that space, they'd say. Wouldn't it be nicer, more fair, if she had access to both rooms? That became the pattern of my childhood. Books? Share them. Toys? Share them. My bike? Well, she needs to learn to ride, doesn't she? And if I protested, I was selfish. Controlling. Materialistic. A capitalist in training who hadn't yet learned to prioritize community over personal property. Yes, that's an actual quote from my father. I was 8. The sharing was always one-directional. She never had to give anything up, not her toys, not her privacy, not her space. I was the strong one, the generous one, the one who already had too much. So I learned to let go. Of fairness, of space, of expecting anything to belong to me. Until I got older and realized I didn't have to live that way. I worked through college, graduated early, landed a consulting job that paid well and aged me 10 years in 2. I bought my own place at 29. Not a mansion, but solid. 3 bedrooms, a little yard, good light. The kind of house that felt like breathing room after a lifetime of being told to scoot over. My parents hated it. You don't even have a family, my mom said once, like that was a moral failing. What do you need all this space for? Meanwhile, my sister had 2 kids by then, married to a guy who wore socks with cartoon characters and called everyone bro. They had a smaller house in the next town over, a fixer-upper they never actually fixed. The campaign started slowly. Each visit to my sister's house provided new ammunition. Your sister is drowning in bills. The kids need room to play. It's not fair that you have all this and she's struggling. At first, I offered what I could: babysitting, weekend trips, a new washing machine when theirs broke. But it wasn't enough, because what they really wanted, what they eventually said out loud, was for me to downsize, sell my house, and give the difference to my sister. You're barely home anyway, my dad said. Why waste it? I said no. Calmly, firmly, without guilt. And they did not take it well. For months, there was silence, the cold, aggressive kind that fills family group chats with one-word responses. Then suddenly, a thaw. My mother called out of the blue. I've been thinking about your orchids. I'd be happy to water them when you travel. That's how it started. Just watering plants. Then I noticed the rug needed vacuuming, so I did it. Then, you really should declutter your entryway. I tidied up a bit while I was there. It got stranger. I once came home to find my spice rack rearranged alphabetically, not in English, but in Latin. Another time, the kitchen table was wiped down and reset with placemats I didn't own. I asked her to stop. She told me cleaning was her new hobby. I've been watching organizing tutorials, she said, like that explained why my laundry was folded into origami animals. I didn't push harder because, and I hate this, part of me was just grateful she was speaking to me again. That I hadn't been completely excommunicated for refusing to bankrupt myself in the name of sibling equality. But something kept nagging at me. Her cleaning hobby started around the same time my sister upgraded to a bigger house, one with a backyard and a walk-in closet and a mortgage she definitely couldn't afford on her own. I remember asking casually how they managed it. My sister just smiled. We had help. From who? She never answered. And I didn't push, because some part of me already knew that scratching at the surface would reveal something I couldn't ignore. I just didn't know how bad it was. After Leo's revelation, I couldn't sleep. I lay in that perfectly made bed, staring at the ceiling, imagining strangers walking through my home while I was gone. The violation felt physical, like someone had reached inside my chest and rearranged my organs. I didn't want to be the person who installs hidden cameras in her own home. I wanted to trust my family. I wanted to be wrong. But I wasn't wrong. And I was done guessing. My next work trip was already scheduled, Boise, 3 days, a rollout meeting with an overseas team. Before I left, I installed 5 small cameras. Living room, kitchen, hallway, entryway, bedroom. All cloud connected, audio enabled, tucked discreetly behind books and plants. I messaged my mom the night before my flight, "Hey, off to Boise tomorrow. If you want to water the plants, thank you, but please don't do anything else. No cleaning, no reorganizing, just plants." She replied, "I'll try not to clean. You know how I am. Safe travels." From anyone else, a normal message. From her, a warning. The first night, nothing unusual happened. She came by around noon, watered the plants, rearranged a framed photo, wiped a counter that wasn't dirty. Annoying but familiar. I watched the feed from my hotel room, laptop open, headphones in, anxiety building in my chest like a storm system. As night fell, the house stayed quiet. I almost relaxed. The second night changed everything. I opened the feed around 8 p.m. At first, nothing, just empty rooms with dim lighting. Then the front door opened, and someone stepped inside. Not my mother. A man, broad-shouldered, carrying a duffel bag. He moved through my living room with the confidence of someone who'd been there before. 2 minutes later, someone else entered. Then another, a woman with a silver braid and wine bottle. Another woman in boots and a flowing red shawl. A man carrying a folding chair. No one knocked. No one hesitated. They moved like they belonged there. I stared at the screen, unable to blink, until my phone rang. "Hey, where are you? Our call with the India team started 5 minutes ago." Reality crashed back. I'd completely forgotten about the time difference. I closed the feed, grabbed my work laptop, joined the Zoom call. I smiled, nodded, probably agreed to things I'd regret later. Inside, I was screaming. Outside, I was muted. The meeting lasted 30 minutes but felt like 10 hours. As soon as it ended, I reopened the camera feed. What I saw turned my blood to ice. My living room was full of people. Lights dimmed, music playing, something soft and rhythmic with a bass line that seemed to pulse through the speakers. There was laughter, the clink of glasses, murmured conversations. A man wearing only boxer briefs lounged across my sofa, the same sofa where I watch movies and fold laundry. A woman sat cross-legged on my rug, opening a small black case. Unmistakably adult items were laid out across my coffee table, things made of leather, things that vibrated, things I didn't want to recognize. Someone walked barefoot down my hallway, holding what looked like a blindfold. She giggled as she passed the bookshelf where I'd hidden the camera, looking directly at it, not into it, just near it, but still, I felt exposed. This is my house. This is my sofa. This is where I eat cereal and pay bills and try to build a life that's mine alone. I slammed the laptop shut like it was on fire. I was still staring at nothing when my phone rang again. Is this Paige Harrison? Yes. This is Officer Whitman with Ridgefield PD. We're responding to a report of a gathering at your residence tonight. Are you aware of anyone currently using the property? My mouth went dry. No. I'm in Boise. I'm not home. We've had several individuals express concern after discovering surveillance devices inside the home. Some were unaware they were being recorded. Your parents are currently present and claim they had permission to use the space. They didn't. You're listed as the homeowner, correct? Yes. Can you confirm whether anyone was given permission to host an event at the house? No. I told my mom she could water the plants. I sent her a message. That's it. Can you share that message? Yes, I'll send it now. All right. You may be contacted for a formal statement. As of now, you're not in any legal trouble, but you should be aware there may be zoning or licensing issues under review. The call ended, but I remained frozen, the phone still pressed to my ear, still processing that I hadn't imagined it. That people had been caught, on camera, in my home, doing things I couldn't unsee. 15 minutes later, my mother called. I almost didn't answer. I stared at her name on the screen, my thumb hovering over the decline button. But curiosity won out over self-preservation. Sweetheart. Hey, listen. Just tell the police you knew, okay? That was her opening line. Not I'm sorry or this isn't what it looks like. Just tell them you knew. What? The word came out half strangled. That you gave us permission. That we could use the house. It was just a little get-together, like the old days. You know, community events, people we trust. Nothing dangerous. Just tell them it was okay. Please. I stood up and walked to the window of my hotel room. Outside, normal life continued, a minivan parked sideways across two spaces, a woman untangling her toddler from a scarf. Everything looked so ordinary while my world collapsed. Mom, I said, voice steadier than I felt, what were you doing in my house? Silence. I saw people. I saw what was on my rug, on my table, on my sofa. What the hell was that? We can explain. Just not right now. No. What were you doing? It wasn't illegal. We didn't hurt anyone. It was private. Someone overreacted and called the police because they found a camera. Yes, a camera I installed in my own house because you've been using it without telling me. Another silence, then my father's voice in the background. We didn't think you'd understand. So you decided not to give me the chance? We thought you'd try to stop it. You were right. I hung up before they could say anything else. I didn't slam the phone or throw it. I just set it down on the edge of the table and stared at it like it had become someone else's problem. 3 days later, I received a message request on Facebook from someone I hadn't spoken to in a decade, one of my parents' old friends. Gray hair, poetry blog, probably still drinks chamomile tea like it's a personality trait. The message was apologetic, almost painfully kind. I didn't know they didn't have your permission. We were told you were aware and comfortable. I'm so sorry. If it helps, this is the website they used to organize. There was a link. No name, no logo, just a clean, private-looking URL. I clicked it. The site was beautiful in that sterile, over-designed way that makes you feel like you're accidentally joining a cult. Muted colors, calming fonts, phrases like freedom through trust, rotating safe spaces, private curated gatherings. Suggested donations, $400, $850, $1,200. A calendar of events. Every date aligned perfectly with one of my business trips. Each location was listed vaguely, but I recognized the photos. One showed a wine glass resting on a table I'd refinished myself during lockdown. Another featured the rug my mom kept saying was too plain. They hadn't borrowed my house. They'd featured it. There was a host alias. The email address attached contained my mother's old nickname from her hippie days, spelled backward, like that was enough to hide her identity. I closed the laptop. Not in anger, not even in horror. Just in finality. They showed up 4 days later. No text, no warning, just a knock on the door and the slow, exhausted sound of 2 people pretending they weren't panicking. You didn't have to escalate it, my mother said as soon as I opened the door. We could have handled this as a family. I didn't escalate anything. One of your guests called the police. But you told them everything. I told the truth. We were trying to help your sister. She needed support. You said no when she needed a bigger house. I didn't think that made her entitled to mine. We couldn't use ours, my father added. People know us there. Yours was neutral. Neutral? I repeated. That's what I am now. Neutral? You were gone most of the time. The house was sitting empty. It wasn't empty. It was mine. They didn't reply. They left with the same silence they'd brought with them. The fallout wasn't loud. It was worse than that. Licensing violations, zoning complaints, a cease and desist from the city, a letter from the IRS asking about unreported income. One of the guests sued them for emotional distress and breach of privacy. They didn't go to jail, but they paid. Financially, socially, quietly. The website was shut down. The network went dark. All the friends they used to gather with stopped returning calls. My sister called last. I hope you're satisfied. Excuse me? They were trying to help me. And now Finn and I have to move. They can't help with the mortgage anymore. So you're blaming me? You didn't have to go nuclear. You could have protected them. They used my house without permission. They did it for me. No, they did it without asking. They didn't ask me. They didn't ask you either, did they? The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know. I sold the house. Didn't post it publicly, didn't tell anyone. Just hired a real estate agent, packed up my life, signed the papers. The new place is smaller, quieter, farther away. It smells like fresh paint and no one else's decisions. I didn't leave a key under the mat. I didn't give anyone a copy. They tried calling once, maybe twice. No voicemails, just missed calls I let stay missed. Eventually, they stopped. There was no dramatic ending, no last-ditch apology. Just the quiet understanding between people who know when something's over and aren't willing to say it out loud. We didn't fall out. We just stopped pretending we were still in orbit. They thought I'd protect them. I thought they'd protect me. As it turned out, we were both wrong. Sometimes I wonder if I overreacted. Other times, I think I didn't react strongly enough. But mostly, I think about boundaries, how they're not walls meant to keep people out, but foundations meant to keep yourself standing. My house doesn't scream anymore. It's quiet now, filled with my own choices, my own mess, my own sense of what home should feel like. And for the first time in my life, when I lock the door behind me, I know exactly who has the keys. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others who might be learning to set their own boundaries. Don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about finding your voice when the people closest to you try to silence it. Sometimes the hardest boundaries to draw are the ones that finally set us free.